Morning people, happy bank holiday. It's a lovely one over Norfolk again. It's hot already, so I've come under the tree to get some shade. A few people have asked me to do a little video about the Equinox and what I like about it and what I dislike about it, and the ultimate question of, is it as good as the Deus? Okay, so yeah, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one because I actually believe that this is a better machine than the Deus. Not by huge amounts, but by enough to choose that over a Deus. I've had the Deus over quite a long period. I've owned it 5 times. I have a love-hate relationship with the Deus. There's things I like about it, there's things I dislike about it, just like the Equinox. But I think the Equinox, with its multi-frequency, I think with its capability of dealing with EMI, I think the fact that it knocks out the coke completely. Deep targets give good solid signals. The ID on this machine is absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. You can dig airgun pellets at like 10-11 inches and you're getting a solid ID on it, really solid ID. Whereas the Deus, totally different. I find that you're listening for those wispy sounds, those ghosty sounds that you then investigate. And it's a waterproof control box as well, which is a must for me. I'm major OCD. When I come home from detecting, it gets hosed down and it gets dried off, it gets looked after. So, I mean, there's other things as well. I won't go into depth because I don't want the Deus gang jumping on me. But I believe, and it's just my opinion, I believe that the Equinox has got the edge. Okay, I really do. The Deus is still a really good machine. A lot of people love it or hate it. And you get used to it, you learn your machine. You learn your machine. And a lot of people, a lot of Deus users have been saying about how, you know, the Equinox is just another machine, it's a hyped up machine. What I want the Deus users to remember is that if you use a Deus, you are using the last hype, okay? The Deus is the last hype. It was hyped up just like this was. It was revolutionary. Wireless, telescopic stem, lots of things about it. So before you knock the Equinox, if you haven't tried it, I think you really need to, or go out with someone who has got one to use it. And remember, you are holding so-called last year's hype, okay? And now it's the Equinox, and I think this is better. But where do I think it's worse? Okay, the shaft. I think the shaft is absolutely appalling. Okay, loads and loads of reports on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media about the shaft issues, the wobble. Okay, mine does it. There we go. Drives me mad. Doesn't matter how much you tighten those cam locks, it still wobbles. And one of the problems is, it isn't really the cam locks, I don't think. The bottom shaft is a smaller diameter than the top male shaft. It just doesn't do uptight enough on it. Okay, so I'm now ordering myself, I've already ordered it, some carbon fibre tube, some decent lever lock cam locks, and I'm going to make my own. It's going to cost me about 70 quid. Okay, what I don't understand is this machine was meant to be a game changer. Okay, so they've concentrated on performance, and that's all you've really heard about. To be a game changer, the first step, before you use it, you get it out the box, you're going to hold it. Okay, so that is the first impression. The first impression is you holding it. And when you hold it, to me, it feels cheap. It's a cheap shaft, so that puts me off straight away. And it is a machine that you have to get used to, especially if you've come from a Deus or something like that, or a Gold Max Power, because you know they're two different things. I'm not a Minelab lover. I'm really not. I don't like Minelab. I've had the CTX. I won't go into that. That's a different thing. So for me to like this and really like it and choose it over the Gold Max Power, which I still think is one of the best land machines ever made, people are going to laugh at that. People are going to say, oh, it's the Deus. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I think the Gold Max Power is still one of the greatest machines made. But that has its faults as well. So my father uses the Gold Max Power and he loves it and he knows it, really knows that machine. You've only got to look at the finds I post of his, superb finds. He really gets on with that machine because he's learnt it. So out digging a couple of weeks ago, and we was checking each other's signals. So he was checking my signals before digging, and I was checking his signals before digging, and it was a bit of would you dig, would you not dig. So he's got a few signals, and I've checked them, and I've said, I've looked at the ID, I've listened to the sound that the Equinox is producing. Would I dig it? No, I wouldn't. That's iron. That's deep iron. Okay, I'm not getting a solid ID on it. Numbers are jumping about. To the ears, it sounds okay, but it's jumping about on the numbers. Wouldn't dig that. And he's dug it, and it's iron, deep iron. And this has happened 3 times in the space of half hour, checking each other's signals. And then another couple of signals he got, I checked. Would you dig them? He's getting a really sweet tone, really nice sort of hammer tone. It's not even registering on the Equinox. It's giving nothing. It's nulling it out completely. It's blanking it. So instantly I know that that's coke. Okay, and he's like, no, this is going to be a good signal. And he digs it, and it's 2 lots of coke. Okay, so that's 5 signals. 5 signals he didn't need to dig, and 5 signals I wouldn't have dug with that. Okay, this is why I come home with less trash. I don't dig any iron at all. Don't dig coke. And then he's checked some of my signals. So he's checked a couple of mine, and the signals on mine are really sweet. But on his, he's getting a bit of an iron grunt there. Okay, he's got what he calls a scratchy signal. No, I wouldn't dig them. And I've dug the first one, and it's a huge bit of pewter bell. Okay, so nothing fabulous, but that could have been something really nice. Okay, there's lots of nice things made out of pewter. He didn't dig it. And he said, I ignore them all the time. And the other signal was a deep penny that he's ignored. So the Goldmax Power has put it through its circuitry. For some reason, it's decided that it's irony. Okay, and I've heard this before from people. So he's convinced about the Equinox. What he doesn't like is the shaft, and I totally agree with him on that. I think they really should have spent a little bit extra. I mean, you think that they're mass producing these, they've got huge buying power. They could have made carbon shafts very cheaply and probably upped the cost of the machine by about 50 quid. I would have paid that. It's still under £1,000. I think that's what people are looking at. As long as it's under that £1,000 budget, they would have bought it. Otherwise, you start jumping over that £1,000 budget, you're talking CTX again and Deus. And although apparently this was brought out to combat the AT Max range, because they were taking a huge chunk of the market. But whether they were or not, I don't know. So my other beef with it is the headphones. Okay, headphones are comfy, they give good tones, but again, the build quality. All right, so what they've done is they've gone to someone who manufactures music headphones. So I believe it's Micus who make them, and you can pick these headphones up on Amazon, depending on what label they've got on them, as cheap as £25. Okay, the Micus ones are 50 quid. So you can imagine they have bought thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these. They are paying absolute peanuts for these. They give very good tones. Okay, they're very easy to use, they're very comfortable, but they're a bit fancy. Okay, so it's got all this fancy cushioning up here. And one of the problems people have been having is the fact that these little plastic clips here, when it arrives, they're either snapped or nearly snapped. And the problem is they use very thin plastic here, okay? And when they're made, they put this cushioning underneath that clip and then screw the clip down on it. And what's happening is the clip is bending under the pressure because there's so much padding underneath it, okay? You shouldn't be having problems like this. You really shouldn't. All of this should have been sorted before it was released, because you only have to open. Some people are opening their boxes brand new, and they're broke straight away. They're broke. That's an instant put off. So for me, I mean, mine's now starting to go. I really look after my stuff, but you can see a hairline crack through it. It's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to end up changing to another pair of headphones. I'm not going to buy another pair of these. Shouldn't have to do that. Okay, I've only had my machine, 6 weeks or something? 2 months maybe? Not long at all. So yeah, headphones, they give good tones, they're very comfortable, build quality. I mean, you're talking about a £50 pair of headphones, okay? nothing for 50 quid is that great. Best headphones I've ever worn are the Goldmax Power headphones, the WS3s. Now that's a pair of headphones, best headphones I've ever used. Really, really strong build quality. They're a little tight on the head, but they're okay, you know. But saying that, the Deus had its fair share of problems with headphones, the WS5s, when they first came out, and for a few years after that as well. The headbands were loose on them, so you'd put the headphones on, you'd bend down and they'd fall off. And you were sending them back to Regton's, and they were changing the headband for a tenner or 15 quid plus the postage and sorting it out. The WS4s, the wires were breaking on them, the plastic back bands were breaking on them. So they've all had their issues, So if these break, I think I'll probably go back to the Grey Ghosts, Nugget Busters, that sort of thing, and just use the module. You're still wireless from the machine, but you just plug them in. Okay, but it would be nice if you would have got a superb pair of headphones with it. Okay, because let's not forget what they've introduced this machine as, a game changer. Okay, but is that just performance? Because it certainly isn't quality, not at all. Control box is superb. That's all right. Coil's really well made. The shaft, the headphones, arm cup. I find the arm cup too big. I don't know why they've made it that big. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger would say you need a smaller arm cup on that. So I'm going to change that on the stem that I build as well. So I'm going to build that next week, so I'll put that on the group anyway, so you can have a look. So using the Equinox, I'm not going to turn it on and go into settings and everything, but very easy to use. I don't go fancy with it. Park 1, noise cancel every time, ground balance on 0. Okay, I use threshold on 8 with a pitch of 1. I use 5 tones. Okay, a lot of people, when I first started using this is the problem, I started listening to other people use 2 tones, use this, use that, and I'd done it and I was digging lots of iron, and I thought, no, hold on, I've been detecting long enough. Okay, I'm going to work it out for myself. So 5 tones, I don't adjust anything on that. Okay, nothing at all, just 5 tones. I run recovery on my land, it's pretty clean. I run my recovery at 5, and I run an iron bias of roughly about 3 to 4. Sensitivity, I start off on 22, I don't go any higher than that. Okay, but I generally find that I knock it down 1 to 21, and it's even more stable. What I also like about this over the Deus is that you can use it in really bad areas of EMI. Okay, I've got fields that I cannot, I'm not joking, if I put a Deus within 75 to 100 yards of the power cables, you can't use it. Okay, so if that power cable runs through the field, if you can't detect 100 yards either side of it for the length of that power cable, that's a big area that you can't detect, that you're missing out on. And on a good field, that could be the difference between a really, really good find. But this, under the power cables, if you start to get a bit of noise, first thing I do, noise cancel it, generally sorts it out. If there's still a little bit left, sensitivity, drop it down maybe a couple. Even if you're running 18, 19, okay, you're not going to lose huge amounts of performance. You can still use it like that, but you're going to be able to detect. I'd rather lose a little bit of performance running it at 18, 19 than not be able to detect that area at all. And it works. So yeah, absolutely love it. I would urge some of these Deus users, I know there's a lot on the group who have been on the fence about getting one. You've had your Deus for years, you've learnt it, you get on well with it. I still think that this just has the edge. I really do. I think it has the edge. Go out with someone, try one, see how you get on. You know, it's a bit of an eye-opener. It really is good. Field opposite my house, I've used every detector on it. I've used the G2 Plus, I've used the F19, I've used the Golden Mask, I've used the Goldmax Power, the Deus, the CTX, and with all of them I've never found a hammered coin on there. Never. The Equinox, once I got used to the settings, I've been on there for 4 trips and I found a hammered every time. I don't think that's coincidence. I don't think it's just because I've walked over it. I think it's because it's capable of finding it. So yeah, don't knock it. It really is a good machine. I understand what people are saying about the issues. They were on the fence already about leaving the Deus or leaving other machines to get one, and now you're hearing these niggles about headphones, shafts, things like that. They're not major problems. You can still use the machine, but you shouldn't have to be correcting it. You shouldn't have to be winding insulation tape around the bottom stem so the cam lock does up. You shouldn't have to be putting shrink wrap around the plastic clips on the headphones to keep them in place. These things should all be sorted. And with a machine, the way they promoted it, that massive hype, they really wanted to make sure that this machine was 100% or as close to it before they released it, and I don't think they have. I think they've concentrated on performance and that's it. Multi-frequency is going to sell it, and it has. And yes, it works, but they should have sorted the shaft. People are going to say, it's a shaft, what do you want it to do? Well, do you know what, when you're spending that sort of money, I expect a good shaft. If Golden Mask, okay, if Golden Mask can put a telescopic carbon fibre machine together, okay, for 179 quid, I'm sure Minelab, with their buying power, could have put a carbon fibre shaft on and made it look nice, feel nice, and reek quality, but they didn't. Let's hope they sort it, because I think it's going to affect their sales a little bit. But yeah, try one. You really will like it, and you never know, by the time it comes to buying one, you might have a machine that's absolutely perfect. So sorry if it's long-winded, sorry if it's boring, but a lot of people have asked me to do it. Would I have one over a Deus? Yes, any day. Not knocking the Deus, it is a very capable machine. Okay, I just think this is better. Have a good day, people.